Good evening, CrossPointe. I trust you guys are enjoying a wonderful evening of music, celebration, and gratitude to God. What a wonderful season to do this. Thank you, Mike, for the opportunity to share just a brief moment. I call it pivotal moments. I know in my lifetime there have always been several big moments when you really made decisions that really impact the future in a big way, and that will happen for all of us. But particularly, I have a story to share. When I was 48 years old, now I retired at 68, so it was 20 years before I retired, and I was just worn out with ministry. I was worn out with pastoring and just the struggle of it all. I'd already been doing it for 30 years, and I really wanted to change, and so I was ready to quit the ministry and wanted to do some counseling. But I told Billy, I said, I think I've just gone as far as I can go. I've got to stop. I've got to just find a job, get back, have some normalcy to our life. And I was really, really low. So anyway, I went over to see Betty Wood. Betty Wood had Matador Foods in Blanchard, Oklahoma. And she is, of course, a great friend. And I thought, well, I could go to work for her, at least for a while, as maybe doing sales. So I went over, sat down and visited with her, and told her, I said, Betty, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna resign the church. I'm gonna quit ministry. I'm gonna do some counseling, but I have relief, and I need a job. And so I said, well, how about would you maybe let me do sales? And you know, she was a dear friend. And she was a key part of that pivotal moment, because she looked at me right in the eye and she said, if you quit ministry, you're running from God. I'm like, okay, that's not exactly what I expected. But she said, as a matter of fact, you're Jonah. You know, Jonah was running from God. And said, Jonah was in that ship, and the ship was going to go down in the storm. And they had to throw him overboard to save the ship. She said, God would write Ichabod over the door of this business, and you'd sink Matador Food if I hired you. I thought, I was whimpering like a whipped pup. I just went back home, and I thought, wow, that's not what I expected. I thought she'd come through and hire me. But you know what? I went home, reevaluated, thought about it, actually did some more schooling hours in counseling, but never intending to quit again. And I didn't know this, and this was the main thing. From 48 to 68 were the best years of my ministry. Satan knew that. But God also knew that great years lay ahead. And that's really the emphasis for the next few weeks, I know. But God, and God does. He brings us to those pivotal moments where our lives are redirected, or where they're changed, and where great things begin to happen. Because after that, that's when we begin to see we needed to relocate. We made the decision to relocate. We raised the money. We bought the land on that corner, which is a miracle. You've heard that already. We saw literally thousands of people come to Christ, lives changed, hearts touched, the community touched. Just wonderful things happened. For 20 years, built the auditorium, and then later the children's ministry, and literally in the remaining 12 years, it was 8 years from that moment to the time we moved in. And then the next 12 years, we built the children's center, of course, and the youth center, and the community center, and wonderful things happened. But it was at that moment that God used her to be honest with me, and for me to reevaluate and redirect my life. And I'm telling you, when you come to those pivotal moments, take a lesson, follow Jesus, don't give up, hang in there, and always be grateful for the good things that He has planned for you. I love you guys. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Hey, CrossPointe, it's Glenn Quirk here, and excited and honored to be able to share with you guys on your But God night tonight. And so I just kind of been asked to share a little bit about what I would call some God moments, or some things from CrossPointe. And so my time there from 2011 to 2013 really saw God do some really cool things. From all of the baptisms that we saw there. Actually even got to baptize my daughter Lexi at the church there, to really even seeing God do things through funerals, watching this church love and care on people during some difficult seasons there. One thing in particular I definitely remember was the tornado of 2013. watching this church come together. We used the community center there, and just didn't really know what to do, and so we used it. We stored a lot of supplies there, and we were taking those up to the tornado site. But the coolest thing I really think that we were able to do is during those several weeks where first responders were coming in, bringing all their equipment, we were able to house them over on the gym floor. We had mattresses set up. I believe we had somewhere between 60 or 70 mattresses on the floor. And so we were able to just give people a place to stay. And so they would go out, they would work all day, come back. We had the people at CrossPointe. We're making warm home-cooked meals for them, loving on them. We had hot showers for them to be able to do, and just person after person that was staying could not believe the hospitality that we were showing them during that time. And so I always look back on that. But really, if I were just to look at one in particular, but God moment that I've personally seen, and this one hits a little bit closer to home, we lost my dad in August of 2021. And Mom and Dad had just started coming to CrossPointe just a few months before that, and watching the people of CrossPointe and the people of Mom and Dad's Sunday school, and then Mom got involved in the Friday morning food pantry team, and just watching everybody come alongside Mom and just loving her through this season has been such an incredible blessing to me personally. Really, even to the place of I came on staff at a church here in Oklahoma City just a couple of months ago, and I sat down with Mom after that because she's always been just such a huge support of everything that I've done in ministry, and I sat her down and I said, Mom, I know that you love me, I know that you support me. But I don't want you to leave CrossPointe. You found your circle, you found your family, you found your friends, and just I talk to her pretty much daily, and so many times she's out at lunch with folks or she's at a Bible study, and really, when I think of CrossPointe, I think of it being a church with a heart, seeing again how you guys have come alongside my mom and my family. Such a blessing to me. So I'm excited about what the future holds for you. Excited for a new pastor coming in, and really believe God's going to do some incredible things. And so praying for you and believing again that there's going to be so many more but God moments in the history of CrossPointe. Thanks so much, guys. I love you all.
God is incredible in the way that he moves and the things that he does. And it never surprises us, because the fact is that he's this magnificent God who's always interested in taking care of us. At CrossPointe, one of the amazing things that God continued to show us was just that we were surrounded by a community of people who loved us. And Debbie and I both know how blessed we were to have spent our time at CrossPointe in the seasons that we spent, in the seasons that we were there, that we got to raise our kids in an environment that we knew God had set aside so that we could watch them grow. But God moved in such a way that we got to really watch them grow. And so many people were not able to do that, and yet we were, because of the genuine care and concern of so many people at CrossPointe. One of the really cool stories that we have, and there are lots of them, but this is really cool for us because it resonated in something that we knew that we were needing. We knew what God was doing. We didn't quite understand it. Being a family of 7, constantly trying to keep things running in the house, running in our lives, all that kind of stuff. We never had vehicles with less than about 200,000 miles on them. We rarely did. Occasionally, maybe just closer to 200,000, but nonetheless. And we would always kind of just struggle through it, just do what we need to do. And God has always blessed us. There's never been one time where we have been in a need and God, didn't show up. But one of the really coolest things that God really did was we had this scenario, and we drove a minivan, and it literally, I think it had 240 40,000 miles on it. It was on its like death legs, so to speak. And I remember that we didn't really say anything about it. We just did what we did, and we trusted the Lord. We said, Lord, you know what we need, and you're watching out for us. And so we knew that He would, but we never believed in what God was going to do, in the sense that He did it. Like He stepped in a way that was just so beyond. I came in one day, Sunday was following a Sunday, so it was probably a Monday or Tuesday. It was some time in the week. And I remember walking in to my mailbox there in the church office, and I found this envelope in the mailbox for me, and I opened it up. Sure enough, it was a check, and it just said for Butler Auto. And I turned around, I looked at Cheryl in the main office, and she just smiled, big smile. And I said, Cheryl, who did this? She said, it's anonymous. And it was incredible because we hadn't said anything about it. We hadn't done anything that would have said, God, let's make it known. People just watched, and they were attentive to our needs. And we knew that God would take care of us, but we never figured on Him taking care of us in the way that He did. What was beautiful about it is we took that money, and it just so happened there was someone in the fellowship at that time who was in auto sales. And I went to him and I said, man, listen, we got to find a car. So he hooked us up. We bought this incredible little Durango. It was a beautiful little car for us. It was great. And what was really cool about the Durango was that all of my older kids who are licensed drove it at one point. Now, I'm not sure they were near as excited as we were, but family of 7, you only got what you got. What God did was an incredible thing, because He put us in community, and we knew that He would take care of us, but He stepped up what that taking care of looked like. That's what I always loved about CrossPointe. And there was never any question of the depth of love for people within the fellowship, whether it was things like this or stepping in times of sickness, which we often had, stepping in times of adoption, which we had a couple of offers. We had a couple of moments with that. But one of the great things about CrossPointe, this is my real but God moment. I was ready to be done with ministry years ago, 17 plus years ago, and I was just ready for it. And Debbie and I said, man, I don't want to do this anymore. So I told Debbie that, and she said, well, let's pray about it. 24 hours later, I'm kidding you not, 24 hours later, we get a call while we're sitting in a doctor's office with one of our younger kids. At that time, we only had 3. And someone on the other line said, hey, what do you think about coming and doing college ministry in Norman, Oklahoma? I said, well, I don't think about it. I've never thought about it. I don't even know what that is. But I can't deny that God is answering a prayer that we just made yesterday. And it was incredible to know that God did that. We trusted Him in those moments, but God really stepped into that space, because what He gave us for the next 17 years was a fellowship with a group of people. Some who stayed, some who left, some who had to move on, some who had to move on, But we loved them, and they loved us, and it was beautiful. And God treated us in a way that we knew He would, but He stepped it up and loved us through so many. And CrossPointe is a sign of that, and so an encouragement of that. And it is, without question, a church with a heart. God bless you guys. Go in peace.
Hey, CrossPointe. Now, you've gathered together tonight in worship not because it's your obligation and not because it's something to check off of a list. Instead, you've gathered together because your hearts are thankful for what He, our God, has done. There's a song out that says, from the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. As we look back over our lives, we can say that it would have been enough if God had let us go on living our lives for ourselves, living in sin. But God called us out of darkness into His marvelous light. It would have been enough if God had forgiven me of my sin. But God adopted me into His family and made me a joint heir with Christ and given me millions of brothers and sisters just like you. It would have been enough if God had given me a gentle leading to come to CrossPointe. But in the last few months, I've lost sleep. I've woken up with you on my mind. I've laid down at night with you on my mind. I've witnessed so many full circle moments that they've left my head spinning. Things like my family meeting Tracy Morris in 2013 when we brought our church out to Norman to do disaster relief. Or listening to Mike Cousineau preach, just go, to the congregation there at CrossPointe, knowing the entire time that it was God speaking to us. Or Randall University's praise team singing God is on the throne, the very week that I discovered that song and was greatly ministered to it by it. And the young lady singing the lead on that song is the daughter of a missionary in Puerto Rico, the same missionary that I went and helped put the roof back on their house after Hurricane Maria took it off. And also Mike Wade preaching from Colossians 1:18, which happens to be my life verse. I've been racking my brain trying to figure out which is the best but God story to tell you. Then it hit me. We are in the middle of a but God story right now. It would have been enough if God had allowed us to continue on the path we're on. Continue doing the things that we were doing. But God. I look forward to filling in the rest of that story together with you in the days, the weeks, the months, and even the years ahead. I share in your gratitude and love for our Savior and King. And as always, go in grace. God bless you.